Hi, my name is Jason, and with me is
Mitch Densley.
Welcome to another episode of Learning Happy Hour. Today we are in Seattle at Highline College. Why are we here?
We're here participating in the Pacific Rim Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, and this is a special episode of two-part within a series focused on the Palo Alto Networks Academy and collegiate cyber defense competitions in general.
And we interview in this episode two great guys from our Academy program, Jim Boardman and Keith Cantillon, right? And we're going to learn a little bit about St. Patrick's Day. So we filmed this actually last week.
Belated Patrick's Day.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day. So it's a lot of fun. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to a bonus episode of Learning Happy Hour with Mitch and Jason. Remember to BYOB, bring your own brain. Cheers!
So now, guys, we are posthumously celebrating St. Patrick's Day, a belated happy St. Patty's Day to you all, because we are after the fact, but we really wanted to take this opportunity to get to know the Academy side at Palo Alto Networks. And a lot of people might think that the Academy is like a Hogwarts or something like that, where we send young cybersecurity professionals and they come back, full adult wizards and cyber defenders. But I suspect that's not really what's going on. So the reason we have Jim and Keith with us today is to set the record straight and introduce us a little bit into what the Academy does.
So the Starfleet officers, that's a different academy.
Yeah, it's completely different. That's the academy you go to, and I go to the Wizarding world there, Jason. Nice. So with that, we'd like to kind of go into some of the questions that I sent over in the meeting invite. Keith, thank you so much for replying back to that. And I'll just let you guys both go one at a time and answer some of these questions, or you can agree to share it, or one of you can take it. I'll let you guys work that out. But first, let's start off with you guys telling us a little bit about what you do at Palo Alto Networks. Please describe for us your role.
So we have the Cybersecurity Academy. First of all, the Cybersecurity Academy is worldwide. We cover the entire world, so our audience is very big. What we do is we are a train-to-trainer type model. So we train accredited institutions all the way from kindergarten, or K as we say in the United States, K through 20, all the way up to grad students. So that's our market. It's a pretty big market. And we train the instructors so that they can train their students. We provide curriculum to the instructors via our Academy Moodle, which is a learning management system. And so they can use that to do guided instruction to their students. We also help them set up their laboratory environment. We provide labs, structured labs. We provide our virtual firewall appliance to all the academies for free, so they can use it on their own hypervisor of choice. And for selected academies, we also have loaned them firewall appliances. And we also have academies they can buy our hardware firewall appliances at a discount. It's a lot of fun. It's very dynamic, and I think that covers kind of the basics of it.
Great, that's great. So you essentially coach other educators on how to take Palo Alto Networks content and deliver it to their own students. Is that a fair summary?
100%, yes, correct.
Cool.
But with that is a free VM, right? And they can rent physical hardware and free courseware that you guys have put together. So you guys are really kind of shipping a full complement of all the resources to make it easy for professors and teachers and students to understand and adopt the technology of a next generation firewall. And I think that's one of the things that's pretty fantastic, that there's so much generosity in helping folks communicate the benefits of a next generation firewall as part of their cybersecurity strategy.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that that's my favorite English word, which is free. That's what I always tell my kids. So that is the great benefit. We don't charge anything for the services that we provide the academies. It's all free of charge. The curriculum is also, it's based although this is kind of United States-ish, and we're worldwide. But interestingly, a lot of people are kind of copying what the education is doing in the United States. But there's an organization which we call the National Initiative for Cyber Education, and it falls underneath NIST, and they have what we call the Cybersecurity Workforce Framework. And the workforce framework is developed on, they have KSATs, which are knowledge, skills, abilities, and tasks. And that's what we use for the student learning outcomes for the curriculum that we teach. And what's nice is the fact that these are non-proprietary student learning outcomes. They're not based on our proprietary technology, but because we do such a great job in the cybersecurity area, all the content that we have, our educational content that is geared towards our commercial customers, fits right underneath that umbrella, and then we add other content as well. So that makes it really, really nice. So we can go to university, and and from the university standpoint, what do they gain? Well, they gain the fact that they're going to get the most current technology at the fastest rate possible. If you look at, I used to teach at Alfred State College, and textbooks were always like 2 years behind where the technology was. So what we do is we have all this great documentation, and then we make it available. We put it in an academic framework. We also do all the assessments, because that's one of the things you have to do as a teacher. You have to assess the students, how well they're learning. Our labs are like that. And so that's what makes it really, really nice. We do all that heavy lifting for you. And then you as an instructor, just as Keith was saying, you can use the entire course that we've developed, or you can use pieces of the course and add it to your curriculum. As a matter of fact, that's what I did when I was teaching at Alfred State College. I had a security tools class, and I had a little bit of everything. It was kind of like the CISSP. It was an inch deep and a mile wide. So I had, I covered IP tables, which, static firewalls with Cisco ACLs, a little bit of Cisco CCNA security. And then I also tied in the Palo Alto Networks, especially, what Keith was talked about when we got into deep application inspection firewalls, application ID, content ID. So it fits right in. We're not there to kind of, replace anything. Obviously, if you want to use the whole entire course, you can, or if you want to use it with something else, you can as well. So it's very flexible.
So if there's a college professor or a university member who's watching this and are excited about the Academy program for Palo Alto Networks, how do they reach you guys? If they want to be a part of this, what are the first steps that they have to do?
Well, the first, we do have an Academy landing page. So if you go to, and that would be the first step, if you go to the Academy landing page, which is www.paloaltonetworks.com/academy, there you'll find a wide swath of information that will get them started on going through the Academy path. We do require that they be certified academic institutions. So what that means is that there's a third party that certifies them to make sure that they're actually an accredited institution. And then second is that we do have an Academy agreement. Again, the free, it's my favorite word, free. It's free, but we have an Academy agreement. It's not very, very stringent whatsoever. You can back out of that Academy agreement with very short notice if you want to at some point in time. And again, the only two requirements that we have is, number one, that they teach our technology, some part of our technology. It doesn't have to be the whole swath, but something about our technology in one of their academic courses, or they could teach it as to prepare for competitions. And the other requirement is that they report the number of students that they teach. Because that's one of the things that we track is the number of students that are taught in the Academy program. So Keith, if you have anything to add on, go ahead.
The one thing that stands, there seems to be a definite difference between the US-centric and European-centric is the face-to-face with it. That I suppose it can be a language barrier, that they do like to have the more face-to-face approach with it. So we do tend to travel a little bit more to university locations in Europe than the guys are doing in the US. But that's not being said, because the guys in the US then are so integrated into the K-12 space, and also with the CCDC competitions as well. All of our academy training engineers are, I think, every weekend, Jim, for the next few weeks, for the next few months. You guys are hitting a lot of different universities, a lot of different locations in US for that. So yeah, I would not be able to add any more onto Jim's background there.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mitch and I are actually packing our bags, and the next day or two we're headed up to Seattle, Washington to be members of the white team for one of the CVCCs up here in the Northwest. So we're very excited about that. In fact, let's if you guys don't mind, talk a little bit about what that is and what that's about.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about that. So the CCDC, it stands for the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. It's a national competition in the United States. Essentially what it is, they divided up the United States into 10 physical regions. And then the colleges compete at the region that's closest to them. I should say there's 9 actual physical locations. The last one is they call the alternative location. That's online for places like Hawaii and Alaska, where it's not easy to get to a college that could host it, and there's not that many colleges up there. What they do is the students walk into the room and they're given a business which they have to run. Or sometimes they do it in like an arena shape, like at the Western Regional. But anyway, they're given a business situation in which they have services that are running, and it's mainly for like an e-commerce business. So you can imagine the services that you'd have for an e-commerce business. Well, DNS would be one of them. You would have some type of LDAP service. So you probably have some maybe Active Directory or Open LDAP. You'd have e-commerce server, so you'd have to have HTTP, HTTPS. You have to have an email server. So all these things, they're told that you got to keep all these services up. And at the same time, what really makes it interesting is that as soon as they walk into the room, there's a team of penetration testers. And these guys are really, really smart, and they start attacking right from the beginning. The teams are given like default passwords that they have to change. So this is one of the competitions that makes password changing and password management exciting. I mean, we all think about password changing and password management. We probably don't think of excitement, adrenaline rush. We probably think of an annoyance, but in this competition, it's very, very essential. I mean, it's the basics that'll get you. So anyway, the teams have to defend their networks. And one of the things that we are a supporter of all the CCDC competitions and Palo Alto Networks, and we provided both our hardware appliance and our virtual appliances we allowed them to deploy them for the teams to use to protect their network infrastructure. And it really does make a difference. When I was at the Northeast, the teams that did the best, that knew how to configure the firewall the best, actually scored the highest. They came in 1 and 2 from what I observed when I was on the white team. So it's normally it's the actual hosts that they have to protect. It started out, it's kind of interesting because it's actually becoming more and more complex to defend your networks. And I will say also is that if you look at the penetration testers, they are the rock stars. Or in the Air Force, I had a career in the Air Force, so they would be like the fighter pilots in the Air Force. Everybody else is kind of a plebeian to a certain extent. And it is very, very intense. They run them through the gamut for 2 days. And the team that can keep their services up the longest, okay, so that they don't have a lot of downtime as a result of the red team attacks. And the team that they also give the teams what they call business injects. So a business inject might be give me a security policy that's specific to your business use case. Or you just been hacked, okay, which they have been, everybody has. Okay, write me an incident report and, put all the details of it. My investors want to know about this, or what's the first thing you should do, brief me on, the corporate guys want to come in and what's the first thing you should do when you've known that you got a breach, right? The corporate CEOs or CSOs are asking a team of their cybersecurity experts. And of course, what is the right answer? So you've encountered a breach. Let me ask you this question. What do you think should be the first thing you should do if you encounter a breach and you're working at a corporation or at any type of business entity? What would be your first steps? Oh, first 2 steps.
Just like a true instructor though, Jim, you turn the questions around on the students just to get us started. And I applaud that. And I know Jason does too. I'll go quickly. I think it's disclose internally and begin information collection, but I could be very wrong on that.
Yeah, you're right. The main thing is it's kind of a pun, because we know who runs the world, right? It's the lawyers. So you want to make sure that you get that the lawyers are involved right up front. So before you do anything, before you make any disclosures, right?
Nice.
But that was and that was the correct answer. Believe it or not, they gave it to a team. And my team happened to answer it correctly, and they said, well, we need to talk to legal staff, and we need to make sure, figure out, okay, what our next steps are. And that should all be documented. But all this is incident response, and you should have all this down. But the main purpose of this competition is not the kind of what do you do in incident response, although that could be some of it. It's how do you protect your network right now live, which is really, really good with our firewall, because that's what we do. We prevent attacks. And so it makes our firewall very, very useful for these competitions. And the winner of each of the 10 regionals, they go on and go to the nationals, which is in Orlando. And then the national in Orlando, they are taken to Washington, D.C. They get a little bit of fame. I think they get their name on Times Square. So it's really, really important. This is really in the United States. We have the basketball tournament. We call it the NCAA basketball, and right now it's like Sweet 16. So I like to call this the Sweet 10. Kind of same idea. The winners go. This is a sport for geeks. So it is really exciting. It's really fascinating to watch them.
Talking about future. I got a question in the chat. So I want to ask this to both of you for your respective regions. Jim for U.S., North America, and then Keith for EMEA, and then Africa. It sounds like you've got some in Middle East exposure too as well. How are your EDU organizations doing, in your opinion, at preparing the next generation of cyber professionals? Because we know countries like Israel have a massive effort towards cyber defense, cyber offense. Countries like Russia and China are making it a big priority too. How do you feel the rest of the world is doing at preparing cyber defenders, cyber offenders? And then a dovetail on that, which topics do kids struggle with most? And which topics are in greatest demand for kids today?
First of all, what I see on my everyday basis or everyday life with Palo Alto Networks is that it's more of the universities that I'm dealing with as opposed to the K-12 groups. However, that I have seen a shift in that over the last 3 to 6 months. So some of the countries that you mentioned, yes, definitely Israel. Estonia is another huge one that's so integrated from an educational perspective, right at the teenage level. With them, we see Poland as well as very, very forward thinking from them. We've actually just linked over to all of the UTCs in the UK, which are they're like high schools, and they're kind of private high schools with it. So they're now taking on board our curriculum as well. So we have in the cybersecurity space on the academy program, we have, I suppose, essentially 5 courses. And the first 3, which would be the Foundation, Gateway, and Essentials, are really kind of aimed at that market at the K-12 space. But it's also aimed at, individuals that maybe are doing a completely separate course. Maybe it's a business degree course, and they want to be able to get their hand in the pot of cybersecurity. So, from an educating perspective, we do see that it is being driven a lot more by both the educators, but it's also starting to come from the government perspective as well. And that's, I think, a key area. Like I had the opportunity back in August to go to NATO in Den Haag in the Netherlands, and I was able to to teach something like 50 or 60 of the brains of Europe, Middle East, and Africa from a cybersecurity perspective. And I just was over in Poland there 2 weeks ago, and also Romania, and I did Women in Tech Summit and Girls Who Code Summit. So these ladies are like between the ages of 16 to 30, and they are just brains. I mean, what they have and the knowledge they have of the security background is fantastic. And that's been taken from the educators, the schools themselves. So, you know, they need to know, the students need to know, not just the client OS, but all the way, as you said, Jim, like plumbers, all the way to the firewall and everything in between. They need to know that it's, you know, not just one vendor, that it's all vendors that they have to have a touch and feel of, so they can have a more leveraged approach, or a more, I suppose, rounded approach of being able to pinpoint an attack or a risk.
Yeah, I just would like to just piggyback on what Keith said. I agree with everything he said. In the United States, you know, I think we're treating this as a crisis, really, essentially. Which is the whole basis of the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. So we view, you know, the connected globe, the connected world, when you look at Internet of Things, when you look at more things being connected, to include like your Nest thermometer at home, which is, you know, do you want to protect that? Well, I would certainly want to protect that, because, you know, just like you said, you know, when you're setting up your Google DNS, you know, how do I know who's going to get into it? You know, the awareness of it. So what NICE has done is they are actually starting from K through 12. So they have a curriculum that is set up that introduces cybersecurity in every course. You know, the terms and knowledge, the terms in it, even in like English courses or history courses, like the history of cybersecurity and so forth. And they have an entire curriculum. It's all also open to free, so it's free. That's another one of my favorite words. So if if anybody's looking at this or video or listening to it, they can just Google NICE, and they will get the US, and they will get all the information. It's all there. It's all publicly available, and you can actually see the curriculums that are being used. And you could apply them to your schools. And I think, you know, I would say that, you know, most high schools, high schools they're lagging behind, but definitely I'd say, you know, they're catching up.
Are they doing things like the bomb drills that were happening during the 70s and early 80s? I mean, is it really that big of a crisis? Are they taking it that seriously, or are they just kind of?
I think they're taking it. I don't know if it's like we're going to get bombed anytime. I don't know if they're taking it to that level, but they're certainly, you know, taking it to the level that it is something very important, and we have a lack of skills involved in it, and this is something that is satisfying. You know, it's a satisfying career, right? I mean, we're all in this together, everybody here in this conversation. I mean, every day we can wake up and we can not only earn a decent salary, but we can also feel good about ourselves because we're out there trying to protect the digital infrastructure, right? That the world is using, that everybody in the world, whether you're from a rich country or whether you're from a poor country, and if you just look at the educational benefits, to include stuff that they can learn about Palo Alto Networks, our technology. You know, we deal in the academy, we deal with guided instruction primarily, but I don't want to take away from individual instruction that we offer through our learning center, which is also available free. And also the Academy has courses, they've created courses for Coursera, which are not free. Those you have to pay for, but they are available for people that aren't, you know, want to go to college or want to just get a deep dive into our technology in an organized, assessed fashion. There are Coursera courses that are available to include labs. So you can get the hands-on experience as well through that methodology as well as through our academy. So, but getting back to the importance of it, I mean, really, it's when you think about it, it's just the massive amount of jobs openings that are going to be coming, I mean, in the millions, where we're going to be shortfall of people that understand cybersecurity.
Just one thing I wanted to add on to Tim's point as well, just going back to the same question of, what's the most areas or the best area for kids to get into, or educators and so on. And I just put up a link to you guys in the chat window as well. Jim and I had the fortunate experience, we were proudly asked to contribute to the cybersecurity survivor guide, and this is version 3, and that particular cybersecurity survivor guide is something that you can give to your mother, your father, somebody that's doing a business degree, somebody that's just coming out of school, somebody that's in school. It covers everything, and everything that Jim was just talking about there, about being at the airport, connecting to a Wi-Fi, looking at IoT devices, etc. It's all encompassed in one book, and it's got 3 chapters on it, and those 3 chapters align to our actual courses on the Academy program, which are Foundation, Gateway, and Essentials. And that also ties into the nice NIST framework that Jim was mentioning to you, which is slowly getting some penetration in Europe as well. So I just kind of wanted to bring it all back around with that one as well for you.
I appreciate that. Awesome. Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much for your participation on our show. We'd love to have you back if you're willing to talk more about the specifics that you guys do and provide to various colleges and educational institutions, because I suspect there's going to be a lot of interest come out of this little preview we've given everyone. So thank you so much for your time, and we hope to have you back. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you both.
Yes.
Thank you. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
All right, thank you guys. Cheers. Sláinte.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Sláinte. Bye-bye.
All right, so Jason, do you want to introduce our little competition here?
Yeah, so we wanted to ask you, Keith, to judge our Irish accents.
It's going to be bad.
So I have a poem from Oscar Wilde, and I'm wondering how bad or how good we do this. And I want to include Jim in this. And then, so I'm going to share this in chat. We'll put this in our chat.
And we have, well, I won't rain on the parade. This is going to be interesting.
So this is the Sphinx from Oscar Wilde. So who wants to go first?
Now we have to do this in an Irish accent. That's why Keith is the judge.
That's right.
Jason, you kicked us off. Why don't you go first?
Okay. Are you ready, Keith? Okay. All right. In a dim corner of my room, for longer than my fancy thinks. Gosh, this is so bad. A beautiful and silent sphinx has watched me through the shifting gloom. Inviolate and immobile, she does not rise, she does not stir, for silver moons are not to her, and not to her the suns that reel.
Well done.
Well done. Very good.
We have Jim. Jim, you have to participate.
Okay. I'll do it. I'll do my best. I don't know if I could read this in English even, but I'll give it a shot here.
Go.
Okay. In a dim corner of my room, for longer than my fancy thinks, a beautiful and silent sphinx has watched me through the shifting gloom. Involatile and immobile, she does not rise, she does not stir. She silver moons are not to her, and not to her the suns that reel.
That was great. Jim, I heard a little bit of OPA
That's so
belter there.
embarrassing.
That was a combination of lots of accents. I don't know if my Irish came out in that, but
All right, here we go. In a dim corner of my room, for longer than my fancy thinks, a beautiful and silent sphinx has watched me through the shifting gloom. Inviolate and immobile, she does not rise, she does not stir, For silver moons are not to her, and not to her the suns that reel.
All right.
Excellent. Well done.
I think yeah, thank you.
So to
Very,
be
very good.
so to be politically correct, I think you were all really, really good. And all of your mammies and daddies.
And how many people vote for Keith?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
raise their hand.
We'd be very, very proud of you. So my initial feedback would be, Jason, great effort, well done. I would think that maybe more sounded like a Scottish ghoul than an Irish. So, that might be an option there. Jim, also fantastic efforts. You know, your worldly travels have brought you some great accents. I think maybe more the Eastern European, maybe maybe Romania, and there was a hint of maybe Dracula there as well. And Mitch, you know, again, wonderful effort, and the fact that you spent some time here as well in Ireland, but there was a hint more of a Peter Griffin about it than doing an Irish accent than the Mitch doing the Irish accent. But of course, all great efforts. But that's a really, really hard poem to do in any accent, let alone an Irish accent.
Well,
Hey,
now it's your turn.
Can we hear you?
Yeah.
This is my Irish accent. I don't need to speak the poem.
We just want to get the poem from you now.
Let's see. In a dim corner of my room, for longer than my fancy thinks, a beautiful and silent sphinx has watched me through the shifting gloom. Innovative and immobile, she does not rise, she does not stir. For silver moons and naught to her nout, to her suns that reel. Top of the morning to you. 'Tis a fine sunny day back here in Ireland.
Well done.
Well done.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.